Hello and welcome to Fearless DIY Music. My name is Tristan Lass, and today we're going to begin a journey through building a guitar pedal from scratch. The circuit we'll be using is a circuit of my own kind of like design, I guess. It is the Electra circuit with some of my particular tweaks. This is our diagram. And I'll have close-ups of these things as we go through this process, but today we are not going to be working on the circuit board whatsoever, because when building a pedal there are certain steps that you need to take in order to ensure that you have a high probability of success. The goal always with building a pedal is that the first time you plug it in, it actually works. This is an amazing moment in your life when it turns on and does what it's supposed to. Now, all I'm saying is we're going to try to make our probability good, because by the end of this video series we may have a pedal that is non-functioning, but I'm pretty sure that we will actually get there. We're going to take our time and go step by step. That's why this is a multi-part video series. So I have my concept. I have a little drawing here, which I will be popping a picture up of, and it is the basic layout of the pedal, where the controls will be. I have this enclosure that I have left over from a kit, and I'm going to repurpose it for this pedal build, because I don't like to let things go to waste, and it already has some of the holes drilled in it. So our basic layout is going to be, there will be a volume control here, there will be a voltage control here, there'll be a treble and a bass knob, an LED, and a switch. And I have things written inside of the box to remind me of where everything goes. I also have over here, and I'll be popping a picture up of this, over here I have all of my components for the chassis labeled and ready to go. So the first step, after having all of my parts and pieces labeled, laid out for me, all the things that will be installed in the chassis, the next step is we need to take measurements so that we can figure out where the rest of these holes are going to end up. So what I'm going to do is grab a straight edge. I have an existing hole here at the top, so I'm going to go to the center point of that hole and very lightly just draw a little pencil line across. That's just enough for me to be able to see, and without hopefully marring our surface at all. The powder coat on this particular box is not fantastic. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check that to make sure that it's relatively level, and it's not. So I will redraw my line. Now we are level, and I will measure the distance from the existing hole to the side. It's about 1.5. Yeah, so to have room for the potentiometer, I'm going to come in and put my hole, my next drill hole, right there. I'm splitting the difference so that I can have, and I have to make sure too that there'll be adequate room for the pots on the other side of the enclosure. So we're looking good right there. And then I'll make sure I put these back in the right places. 1K there, 100K there. So I'm going to eyeball the, I won't eyeball it. I'm going to measure. I'm going to be good. I'm not going to be my usual self, who sometimes I just go, you know what? I think that's right. Okay. So now we have a hole there, a hole there. We will over drill these a little bit. Potentiometers have a little bit of wiggle room, so we can kind of move them around a little bit if they end up not quite being where they need to be. Okay, for our bass knob, things will be a little bit trickier. We want to come down, and once again I'm splitting the difference of that circle, drawing a pencil line. That looks good, and we're just going dead center on that. And we're going to put that pot, let's eyeball once again, that potentiometer will live right about there. Okay. Make sure I've got my 1K and my 500K, make sure they're not confused. All right, I have marks for my drill points for the potentiometers. As you can see, we already have our output and input jack holes drilled. We've got our foot switch. We have an opening for an LED, and we have an opening for our hard to soft clipping, just little single pole, dual throw switch that's going to be going in here as well. So what do we have left over that we don't have a hole for? It's our 9-volt power supply, power jack. We need to figure out where that is going. I believe I had that designated here at the top. I need to make sure that I have clearance on that so that when I put it in, we won't be hitting the potentiometers. So we're going to go in the middle towards the top to give our potentiometers plenty of room to live without interfering with that jack. All right, so we get to drilling. We are going to first enlarge this existing potentiometer hole. That is going to be for our 1K pot. Our 1K pot at the moment cannot fit through there. We're going to go ahead, and as I drill the holes, I go ahead and install each component one at a time. All right, we're going to enlarge this one size up using our conical drill bit. These are absolutely essential for drilling chassis. All right, let's take a look. Put our lock washer on. Take our potentiometer and stick it on through. Now, with that lock washer on there, there is not enough sticking through to get a really good bite with our nut. So we are going to opt out of the lock nut and go ahead and do this. And just go without it. You don't necessarily need it. You don't need a dress washer necessarily either. And I've got my handy dandy tool here, just a little mini ratchet, the proper size socket, and we have our first potentiometer in. That looks good. I'm actually going to loosen it back up for a sec, just make sure it's totally centered. We just want everything to be nice and pretty as we go forward. Really, just staying organized with building a pedal, it's most of the battle. It's so easy to get confused, and I'm one of those crazy people too. I wire with one color wire. So, using one color wire, you just kind of have to really be on your game. Over here I have little parts bins. I'll be throwing bits and pieces over there as I need them or discard them. Alright, now let's see if we can get the rest of these holes reasonably lined up. Okay. Okay. That looks pretty clean. That is going to be a 500K because that is going to be the treble control. For our passive, we're going to be doing a kind of a cool EQ circuit in this. We're going to be doing a PTB, passive treble bass, a la, G&L guitars, courtesy of Mr. Leo Fender. Let's see here. You know what? I'm going to enlarge that a little bit just so that we can really make sure that we have our pots lined up properly. Okay, giving myself a little bit of that wiggle room I was talking about so that we can have our knobs be nice and aligned so that we're not going, oh geez, that looks like garbage. There we go. Now we got just enough room to move that pot around a little bit as we go through the build process so that we can adjust it. I am thinking, should I grab a, oh, do I have a trim washer on here? I do not. Thinking about grabbing a washer, but I think I'm just going to go with it. Actually, I'll use this one. That's why you save parts. Actually, we'll try it without it. No, we're going to need that. And this is just all part of the build process where you sit and you go, oh, what am I doing here? So for now, we're going to put that in like so. Our knob will cover that beautifully when we get to that point. That wonderful point where we're actually just putting the knobs on. And it's like, oh, we got a pedal. All right, so now we have our treble pot in. Okay, most excellent. And I put those at detente for no reason other than I just feel like it. All right, let's go ahead and get our next hole drilled. This will be for our main control, our quote-unquote volume/gain control. How's that looking? Looks pretty good. All right, we'll see how that one lines up. Looks like it's going to line up very nicely. Yeah, that looks good. All right, put our lock washer on the reverse side. Go ahead and get that potentiometer in. And like I said, you know, getting your chassis with all the hardware in it, it just really, it gives you your guidepost for the rest of the pedal, you know, for the rest of the project. It also makes it so much easier to wire, you know, when you get to that point where you're ready to wire everything in. All right, I'm going to grab a couple of knobs and just kind of take a look and see if any of these holes need to be adjusted. And I think that all looks very good. All right, so we got lucky. We got lucky the first time through with that part of it. Okay, now we're going to move on to our final potentiometer. Like I said, we've got our main volume/gain voltage, which will just change the amount of juice that we're sending through the circuit at a certain point. Then we got our treble control. Now we need to put our bass control in. So let's go ahead and take a look, and we'll center that up. Our hole. And drill away. All right, this is a push-pull pot. So we'll see here. Okay, one side's up. All right, we're already running into space, and we got plenty of space there. Okay, we'll just pushing up our lugs on. This is that potentiometer doesn't have a whole lot going to it. We got plenty of room there. All right, so on my push-pull, I am missing a nut. So I'm going to grab my parts bin and grab one real quick. If I don't find one, in the interest of time, I will just continue assembling. Let's see here. could be a fit. Look at that. Looks like I know what I'm doing, huh? Crazy. Alright, let's get a lock washer while we're at it. Let's go ahead and see if I've got a nice dress washer in here as well. Just for funsies. Alright. Actually, we're going to get rid of that one and grab a couple of these instead. Once again, our lock washers, push-pull pot, set to go. Now, why am I putting a push-pull pot in an effects pedal? That is a great question. With our passive treble bass circuit that we're going to have in this pedal, I have opted to have the ability to bypass it. So this push-pull will be on the bass control, and what will happen is if we don't want that that EQ in the circuit, all you have to do is pull up on that bass control and you can take it out of the circuit. Alright, so there we go. We got our potentiometers in, we got a push-pull. Let's do one more quick thing. As you're going along, it's always great to test things to make sure that they're going to work. Our push-pull pot is actually contacting the back of the box. So what we're going to do, and I thought that might happen, we're going to take those lock washers out so that it gets a little bit more clearance. We don't want that contacting the back of the chassis or necessitating me having to go through and insulate the enclosure to keep that. I mean, it's all ground, so it should be fine. But I want to avoid that. We'll see if having one lock washer gives us our necessary clearance. If not, we may have to ditch the other one as well. It's not the end of the world. Push-pull pots, a little tricky because they do take up a lot of real estate. So, oh my goodness, I knew this would happen. I get all fiddly on camera. I'm trying to, how hard is it to put a nut on, huh? Apparently very difficult. There we go. Alright, let's hope this gets it. And I don't have to take this apart again. I would much rather check it now than go to it later and be like, oh crap. Alright, it fits perfectly now. Plenty of clearance on that. We can go ahead and tighten it down. Alright, let's get this out of the way. Parts out of the way. Alright, we've got 4 potentiometers in the box. Now, one thing that I want to do real quick here, I'm always futzing with things a little bit. I don't know if I like that dress washer on there. You know, I can change that later. What I do want to do real quick is I'm going to grab the knobs again and just do a quick tester to see how everything looks, because we don't want to come back to this later and be like, oh, our controls just don't work very well, they don't look good. And as you can see, we have all of our controls in and it looks fine. It is almost a Subway themed pedal which is completely unintentional. I just like the colors yellow and green. Alright, so potentiometers are in. Now we are going to move on. Like I said, go ahead and bend these in. That's a very simple control. The voltage control on this just basically has 2 wires running in, acting as a variable resistor. So they can be just like that. That all looks great. Okay, now let's get that power jack in. Now that I have a little bit better sense of where the pots are, I feel confident in drilling my power jack hole, it will be the biggest hole that goes into the enclosure. So here we go. There we go. That's where it will live. This project box that I'm using, this chassis, it has a bunch of chips and stuff in it, so it's not pristine. A little disappointing from the manufacturer, but oh well. So the way I put in a power jack is I make sure that the negative lug is pointing upwards on that. The negative lug is the big L-shaped lug on these, and since I'm working around a potentiometer, this may take me a couple minutes just to get this fiddly guy in here. There we go. Are we in? Alright, and these are tricky because it's plastic threads with a metal nut. It can go south on you in a hurry, so you want to make sure that when you're getting these started that you're finger tightening it. And I already have a cross thread situation here, it looks like, which is disappointing. Once again, part of the risks of doing stuff live without a net. Why are you being like that, dude? Come on now. Let's get started square. Are we good now? Should be able to. No. For some reason this jack is just really wanting to cross thread on me, which is a, oh, there we go, got it. There we go. That's what I want to see. So anyway, not too bad. I've had those things last for a lot longer than that. Okay, there we go. Alright, we got our power jack. I've got my negative sitting where I can easily get to it. I'm going to actually tweak that a little bit. I'm going to move that like that. So I've got good access to my negative and to my positive from the 9-volt jack. I'm not contacting the pots. It may look like it from that angle, but I'm not. I have plenty of clearance for everything, so that's looking great. All right, so we have power and we have all of our controls in. All right, next up, let's save the easy one for last. We're going to go ahead and get our jacks in. They're going to be easy too. So your input jack on a pedal is stereo. So let's get our stereo input jack. And remember, when you're looking at the pedal, it's the opposite on the inside. So our input jack is going here. And we're going to need to go ahead and re-examine that position of that one. I'm actually already adjusting. It's like, oh, okay. So I'm going to have to move my push-pull a little bit to the other orientation, which is no biggie. Oh, and by the way, I should let everybody know, our circuit board's living down here, so we got plenty of room to move hardware around up in this area. All right, we're going to bend our lugs in on that potentiometer, just to get them out of the way of our jack. Beautiful, plenty of room now. Beautiful. All right, I'm putting the solder points of the jack pointing away from the solder points of the potentiometer so that there won't be a mess of wires on top of each other. I've done some pedals that have just been stacked with crazy stuff inside, it is always so much better to install all these parts so that your solder points are not only easily accessible, but you can plan ahead and go, okay, you know, when I'm wiring this pot and I'm wiring this, these wires will run away from the pot and I can have these loop around over here, and or I can even have them go right underneath the jack. So you just want a future plan. I mean, that's why you mock the pedal and then you do this process first before you get into anything else. You want to have all of your hardware figured out. Now, your output on a pedal such as this is mono. So we have a mono jack. Go ahead and put it in. Once again, with our solder points facing away from the pot, just to keep things nice and neat when we start wiring it. Because in the next video we will be wiring this chassis. That is the next step. We're going to wire it. We're going to put an LED in it. We're going to pretend as if it has a circuit board in it, and we'll go ahead and test it to make sure it passes signal, that the LED lights properly, and all that good stuff. Because that is usually where a pedal fails. It is just in the wiring of the jacks and the power supply and the foot switch. Almost always, if something's going to fail, it's going to be that stuff. All right, looking at this, yeah, I'm going to keep my LED. My LED is going to live in this little hole. These were supposed to be where the circuit board in this this chassis was intended to be. You know, it was a project kit, and these holes are supposed to be ground holes, but I'm using them instead as an LED in a place for my switch, and I'm going to stick with my plan and go ahead and put my little mini toggle on that side, and the LED will go on the other. Alright, I'm not going to install the LED right now because it is too soon for that. We will install it though when we start wiring the chassis, and I'll show you guys some neat tricks on how to put an LED into one of these boxes the easy way, or an easy way, a relatively easy way. Alright, so we need to drill out this hole for the switch. Let's go ahead and do that. I have a towel down to catch all my metal shavings because I will be disposing of those once we're wrapped up here. I think I'm going to have this be a side-to-side switch. So we'll just orient it like that to begin with. Alright. Put on my washer. And then get my nut going here. Okay. Hand tighten as much as I can. I don't think I have a little socket. Maybe I do have a socket that'll fit this. No, that won't fit it. So when I don't have the right tool, I do the old hold it with my fingers in the back and use my needle nose pliers, which I always keep handy. Alright, so we have our jacks, we've got potentiometers, we have a power supply, and we have our mini toggle that will be turning off our hard and soft clipping. Okay, we got our pencil marks here, which just rub right off with your thumb. I will probably, you know, when we get closer to being done with the pedal, we'll do a full cleanup on it. It is already chipped and stuff. So that's going to be our hard to soft clipping in the electric circuit. And now the satisfaction, the fun of putting in the final component that we're putting in today, which will be our foot switch. I guess I should talk about this. I'm adjusting these as I go. All these components have adjustment nuts so that you can see how much thread is poking out. It's really up to you. Some people like their switches up high, some people like them more flush with the enclosure. I err on the side of being kind of flush with the enclosure. I just think it makes it look clean. Got a plastic beauty ring here to put on, and our lock nut, and we will have a foot switch. And then we'll throw some knobs on it real quick just to look at what we've done so far today and feel like we've done something, that we've got an accomplishment under our belts. I have this handy dandy wrench. It's just the right size for that. Alright, we got our foot switch, potentiometers. You know, I am tempted just to go ahead and do just stick the LED in there for fun. Do I have it? Yes, I do. Alright, so this is kind of going a little bit quicker than I anticipated, so we will go ahead and just make the hole for that. So what I do is that I gradually ream out the hole from the inside of the enclosure with this little reamer that I'm perfectly fine using on metal, and I just go through and give it a couple turns, 2, 3, and then keep fitting the LED in until the opening is just right. You want it to be nice and snug, and then that way when you hardwire in your resistor and your ground, your LED should be nice and tight in there, and you don't even really have to glue it. Alright, there we go. That's a good tight fit. We have an LED now, so I guess we did install the LED. We have an LED, we have potentiometers, we have our jack, we have our input and output jacks, and we have a foot switch. Now, let's throw the knobs on for fun, and that'll be the end of this video. So there we go. We're going to have a blue LED. We have a 1 mini toggle on the top. We have a push-pull on our base. We have a treble control. And we have our volume and our voltage. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, please hit the subscribe button. Next time around, we are going to be wiring the chassis. So we'll get that all sorted out. We should have a light lighting up, and everything should be going well. Also, please leave a comment. I love the comment section. A share and a like is also appreciated, and please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss the next 3 videos in this series as we build a pedal from scratch. All right, take care.